What sort of man is this that even winds and sea obey him? My dear brothers and sisters, our passage for today from the Gospel speaks about how Jesus enters a boat. There's a sudden change in the atmosphere, and there's a howling wind. The waves get agitated and enter the water. And the disciples are frightened. It's not as though they did not know the sea. They were fishermen trained to fish, and so they were able to withstand any danger. But it must have been something out of control. And so they panic and wake up Jesus. Jesus gets up. We are surprised that in the midst of that great storm, Jesus could be asleep. And yet I think the lesson for us is that God is with us, that in everything that happens to us, God is present, but our response is important. Are we trustful, or we give up hope, or we despair? And our readings tell us that the storms will come, there will be things that will agitate or trouble us in life, but we need to trust in the God who initially calms the sea and the winds. At creation, God could bring great calm and make creation possible to be livable for people. He is the God of everything. There's a very celebrated poem by John Manley Hopkins. He was a Jesuit in England. He wrote it in 1898 in London. And this Jesuit was a young poet, wrote this poem, The Wreck of the Deutschland, explaining with what joy they entered the ship, what was their feelings as they were preparing to go, and how they met a very sorry end. And there's a line in that last of his 35 stanzas in which he says, praising God and knowing that in the midst of all our sufferings, God is there. And he says, let him, meaning Jesus, Easter in us, be a day spring to the dimness in us, be a crimson-crested east. And that's a great line because it tells us that whatever might happen, we believe that God has Easter for us, that he's a day spring, something that is always joyful, and that the sun and the east will be in our hearts always. The readings then tell us that whatever happens, Jesus is with us. We can always turn to him, wake him, and ask God to strengthen us on our journey of life. Amen.